Hey guys, Pat here with Evergreen Outdoors, and today we're going to be reviewing the Kni-Co Trekker Portable Wood Stove. Now, just the other weekend, I had the opportunity to take this stove out on a hot tent trip and really put it to good use and really see what it's made out of. And I was not disappointed by any means, and I'm very happy with this stove. Now, before I went out and bought it though, I did a lot of research on the various models and manufacturers, and I broke it all down into 5 categories, which really helped me determine whether or not I should buy the stove. And those 5 categories were 1. Design, 2. Functionality, 3. Portability, 4. Durability, and 5. Cost. Category number 1. Design. The design of this stove looks very tough, it looks very rugged, it looks like it can take beating, and it looks like it will last you a lifetime. Every edge on this stove is smooth rolled, so there's no sharp edges to catch your glove on or to catch your pant leg on. And the legs on this stove are designed to be very portable, yet durable, as well as provide a lot of clearance and stability. Category number 2, functionality. The first very functional part of the stove is very large turnstile draft. 2 very large vents here are going to allow a lot of airflow and really let that fire breathe. And it's also going to allow for a lot of fine tuning, especially when you pair it with an adjustable damper, which you can get with the stove. If you look on the side here, you'll notice these 2 tabs, which are also on the other side of the stove as well. Now from Kni-Co, you can get a 1.9 gallon steel water tank, which clips into these. That will allow you hot water all the time, on demand, and 1.9 gallons, that's a fair amount of water to have ready on hand. You can also get a side table that extends off here. That'll increase your work area or your warming area, whatever you may need it for. And as you can see here, this stovepipe is placed in the back corner of the stove. That's going to allow you to use the maximum cooking area on the top of this stove. A lot of designs will have the stovepipe right here in the middle, and that pretty much limits this entire back side of the stove. But with the Kni-Co, everything's nice and open here, especially when you have turned in the right direction. The stovepipe, which stacks inside, is a 3 to 4 inch reverse taper pipe. That's going to allow for more breathability at the top, and it'll also keep the spark arrestor from clogging up so badly, because we're not always going to be burning dry wood when we're out camping. Now when I had this out, it was almost too hot for my tent. There's at times I had to really almost choke the fire out to bring the temperature down enough to actually make it comfortable. So I have no doubt that this here, just being a small stove, will easily heat a 6, 8, 10-man tent. Now our third category, portability. For storage size, this stove measures in at 10 by 10 by 19 inches. So it's definitely not the smallest stove on the market, say like the Portability T1, which will collapse down onto itself, has a nice little carrying case, slide right in your backpack, and it's a mere 7.1 pounds. Obviously this is going to be a little bit more of a hefty haul. It weighs a total of 10 pounds, but the pipe luckily stacks inside of itself, which then fits inside of the firebox, which does increase portability to an extent. And the great design on the legs allow them to flip right under too, so you don't need to worry about them, or you don't need to worry about detaching them, or even losing them. So it's definitely not a great backpacking stove. You're going to need a pulk sled, or an ATV, or a skidoo, or something to transport this. But besides that, as far as tent stoves go, it's still fairly portable. Definitely manageable to get around and get out in the bush with you. Category number 4, durability. This stove is made from 22 gauge cold rolled steel. That's a good heavy durable steel. I have no doubts about this whatsoever, ever warping or bending. And the edges here, they're all triple walled, rolled over each other, and they're secured in place with a heavy dimpling. I have no concerns about these edges ever coming undone either. As a matter of fact, on the way home from my last trip, this had fallen off the back of my ATV due to a faulty ratchet strap. It didn't put a single dent in it, and you would never know it hit the ground doing 30 kilometers an hour. The door latch. The door latch is made from a good heavy steel as well. the same cut as the legs. I'm not exactly sure which gauge it is, but it's a good 1/8 of an inch. It's got a good heavy spring on here for a little bit of cooling effect, but I'd still really recommend gloves when you're opening that because it still gets pretty warm. It's also bolted here and not riveted, which is a great feature because if the rivet ever breaks, then you could be in trouble. But the bolt, you can just throw another one in, or chances are you just have to tighten it up. The same with the draft here. That's bolted and not riveted, which is wonderful for the same reason. The damper system on this stove, I'd have to rate that fairly highly as well. The handle itself is hefty, the spring is heavy, and the damper plate itself is actually cast iron. So I have no worries about that ever failing on me. Now the legs, as you can see, there's barely any flex to that whatsoever. They are in fact held in place by rivets. I believe they are stainless steel rivets by the looks of those, and they're pretty hefty, so I think that they would be just fine. My only concern about durability is the stovepipe itself. But being such a thin steel that stovepipe is, it's naturally susceptible to bending if you clunk it around. But then again, on the other hand, it doesn't take much just to roll it back out and get the right shape that you need again. So that's not too much to be worried about. Overall, I think that this really shines when it comes to durability. I don't think I'll ever have to buy another wood stove at the end of my life. Our fifth and final category is cost. If you're looking for a budget-friendly yet reliable stove, then Kni-Co is where you want to be. For this stove, 4 16-inch pieces of tapered pipe, spark arrestor, and the damper came to a total of 350 Canadian dollars. There's other stoves on the market, such as the key one that we mentioned earlier, that can run up to $1,000, which is a pretty hefty investment for a tent stove. Now, some people don't mind paying that for the extra features, such as the lightweight and the packability, but if you're like me, then something like this is the best bang for your buck. In conclusion, I would rate this stove 5 out of 5 stars. I would definitely purchase it again, and I would recommend it to a friend. I think it's going to be very durable. I think it's going to last me the better part of my life, to be honest. But the only thing that you got to be wary of, where it is 22 gauge cold rolled steel, is that you need to oil it when you're done with it at the end of the season. If not, it'll rust all summer. So to do that, just make sure you wipe it down with WD-40, spray the hinges real well, or even use vegetable oil as long as you get something on that steel to protect it when it's not in use. Something I would personally recommend is to paint it with a high temp enamel paint. I personally plan on doing that to my stove. I am going to paint the back, sides, the bottom, the front, and the legs, and I'm going to polish the top with fine grit sandpaper on an orbital sander. That'll reduce maintenance, it'll increase its lifespan, and it'll also make it look a little bit better. Well, this has been the review of the Kni-Co Trekker. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.